They can be added to a module and then put into sequence with other pages, other assignments or quizzes that you have, even PDFs, so that you have it all in the sequential order you want. When we open a new discussion, you'll see the area in gray is what's coming from Harmonize. And speaking from experience with students I used Harmonize with last spring, they didn't even realize they were in a tool outside of Canvas. They just thought Canvas had updated their discussion platform. But now it opens up in here, and the first thing you're probably noticing is the color. It is a dark background with white text, along with making everything less clicky and getting the technology out of the way. We also want to make everything accessible for everyone. So this is all ADA compliant. The dark background, the white text is designed to work better with screen readers as well as for any students with a vision impairment. So that's a nice pop there. You'll see that we have milestones across the top. These are multiple due dates that are set up, so you don't have to worry about that rush to the midnight post the night before the due date. I'll show you how to make those here in just a minute. We see the directions underneath. A website has been added, so a preview image has naturally appeared. We do that with our anything that is a website will have a preview and a description if it has that open graph built in. Then we've got some text that the instructor has written, as well as a picture of the rubric. Now this whole instruction area can easily be rolled up clicking this little arrow. And that means that after the students have gone in and read the instructions and maybe created their own post, they can roll up the instructions and then look at the posts made by their colleagues. And these posts appear like little cards, similar to what you would see in Pinterest or even Instagram. And when you click on one of the cards, it will then expand out and show us all of the discussion that's happening, in this case, in Laverne's post.
So Michael, this might be a good opportunity to answer the first question we've had. Anne is asking, can discussions be set up so that only students in their discussion section can see and or comment on it, even if they're in the same Canvas page?
Yes, I'm going to, hang on, I just put the chat window up and blocked my view. I'm having window juggling. Absolutely. So before I go any further into what you're seeing here with student work, let me address that. You'll notice at the top, there is an edit button. When we click edit, it brings up the area that we build our discussion. And one of the three tabs across the top is post settings. Since you're a Canvas institution, you will have visibility settings that will allow you to set a discussion to be visible to every single person in the course, or just the students in each section will be able to see their colleagues in that section. And then there's groups. So only if you build a group in Canvas using the people tab, then Harmonize would only be visible to the people in that group. Okay. Can you please explain first, what is the difference between Harmonize and the normal discussion feature that Canvas offers? Absolutely. In a normal Canvas discussion, you're going to see something that looks not much different than an original RIC or IRC like chat message from back in the dawn of the internet. It's very text heavy. It's only available in a linear threaded version. I see Melanie nodding her head. It's also difficult for students, not difficult, but it isn't easy for students to quickly add multimedia. But in a Harmonized discussion with this social media type interface, when a student clicks create post, rather than a rich text editor with like 24 tiny tools across the top, we have a different row for each tool. So it's really simple for students to come in and say, put in their subject. They can tag classmates if there's somebody that stands out that they want to call action to, like Dan and I were talking about this, so I'm going to tag him in my post. I can add text here, and there's also an equation editor built in. So this is the closest it comes to the Canvas rich text editor. You've just got your place to add text. But if you notice underneath, there's a place to drag and drop images. So you literally drag and drop it to the screen, or you can click and then find what you need right from your desktop or whatever file you're working in. So no need to like upload to a folder like you do in Canvas and then find it and then add it, or try to add it by like a URL or anything like that. And you can add multiple images here. and any type of file, like a PDF can be drag and dropped in here, PowerPoints. Darren?
Yeah, well, and I just wanted to elaborate a little bit because we did try and shorten kind of some of the front end stuff we would cover, probably short shifted it a little bit. So the idea is, again, how are we allowing students to have that natural connection and the ability to share information effectively with one another in the same way they would in a social media platform? How are we removing those technology barriers and creating more opportunity for connection, especially through the individual, um, you know, utilizing a discussion on, say, like the Canvas student app, so that it's more mobile accessible, so it's more mobile forward. So that, I mean, the big difference is just really how more streamlined the experience is for the students. We keep it seamless, but then also some of the things that we will cover as far as how it positively impacts your ability to manage your discussions as an instructor. So we'll touch on that as well. I also see Melanie asking the question about other media, MP3, MP4 size limits. So just to address that, we will take any sort of media file. We don't care what the format is. If it is video, a standard video format, it will present in Harmonize as a video. If it is an image, it will present as an image. If it's a file type, a PDF, a Word doc, a PowerPoint, whatever it is, it will just be a file that is sitting in the discussion that individuals have shared. From a size limitation, yes, it looks like Michael's already included it. We have a per file size limitation of that 250 megabyte, which, again, depending on what you are doing, is going to be more than you would need in the majority of cases. And then, yes, to Barry's point, if students do have larger videos, they can share them via Google Drive or via YouTube. And we'll kind of point or show how that does that within a harmonized discussion and keeps it embedded in the discussion, so we don't also even have to redirect the student outside to, say, YouTube, where they can become easily distracted. We can keep them focused on the work that they're doing. So I'll stop talking, Michael. You keep going. I'll monitor the chat and see if we missed anything.
No, that's a good question about the different file types. And so Barry, I'm copying and pasting a Vimeo link right here. That will generate a preview in the discussion, so students don't have to leave and go to Vimeo to watch it. They can actually watch the video right in the discussion. You can do that with Google videos, YouTube's as well. As far as file upload size, we do limit it to 250 megabytes, but be aware that does not affect your Canvas course at all, because it lives in the Harmonize server. So if you're limited to a certain size in Canvas, no stress here. Harmonize houses it all. Along with adding links like I just did, you can record your own audio or video. When I click on record video, it's done all within the app. There I am. Hi. And anything that I record, everything I say in this video in just a couple seconds is going to be automatically captioned and will appear beneath the video once it has processed. There we go. So you can notice there's a 5-minute max on the video for two reasons. It's a lot of space to take up, but second, we're learning online, so we don't want to have like hour-long videos. So if you do want to add multiple videos, you can do that as well. And you can also add meetings, which we can talk more about with sharing some information with you guys. And then I can also flag the question for the teacher. So this is great. We can tag students, call them back into the discussion. We can also tag the teacher. And then when I click publish, my post then appears right there in the discussion. It's going to be in chronological order, but I can always sort or search at the top. I do want to point out before I show you how to build one real quick that when you want to grade, it's a simple click on the speed grader button. And now we're going to see the entire discussion previewed in speed grader. So I can read through everything like Darren in this case has written, see his milestones if he's met them, and then come over here and give him a grade. And yes, you can add a rubric if you do that before adding the LTI tool. Then we move on to the next student and continue to grade. So gone are the days of having to grade in two windows, one to see the discussion in context and one to see where you're entering the grades.
So Michael, we do have a few questions that have come up as we're moving through, or perhaps some comments. So we already talked about the ability to share larger videos contextually so that they are embedded. Very nice comment from Melody regarding looking more promising than the gallery tool. Angela had asked whether or not we eliminate the ability to use a Canvas discussion if you're using Harmonize discussions. We do not. The Canvas discussions are still accessible. We just offer what we feel is a stronger, more compelling and engaging opportunity to do both graded and ungraded discussions with Harmonize for the university. And I think that is all of the questions and comments up to this point. Oh, here we go. Becky is asking for video annotations. Is there a way to annotate students' videos with only the individual student being able to see my annotations?
So in order to do that at this point in time, what you would do is create a discussion, and in the post settings, set the visibility to be private between students and instructors. And what's nice about this is you can turn that on, collect video, annotate it, and then after students have finished, if they want to make changes and revisions, they can delete the video that they originally added and add a new finished revised version. This is really good for like long range, like project with multiple submissions. And then when you're ready for students to share and see what's going on, you open up your discussion and go back and change it to visible to everyone. So right now, you can't annotate just to the student. You would set that as the overall discussion setting and then go back and change it. I do also want to point out in here that when you're creating a discussion, you, the instructor, see the exact same interface that the students saw when they made a post, with these one exception or two exceptions up here. There is a post settings area where you can fine tune your discussion, connect it to Turnitin, set them to be anonymous, etc. And then there's the milestones. And milestones are going to be connected to your due date that you set in the assignment setting when you built it. The reason for that is it's then very easy to say, let's have multiple requirements and expectations over time. But because it's tied to the due date and the assignment, when I copy this course for next semester, all of those milestones will move with it and everything will be done for me. I don't have to recreate the wheel. And those milestones are added by clicking the Add Milestone button down here, selecting the date that you want to add, before or after the due date. And then you can set specific requirements. So Barry, basically what this means is I can say, I want my students to make their one original post to this discussion 10 days before the due date. And then I want them to go back 5 days before the due date and leave this 2 comments on other students' posts. And then I can say, go back on the due date and leave some replies to the comments you got on your post. And so now students aren't sitting there waiting until midnight on Sunday for the due date to arrive with all the late stragglers to go in and then make the comments. And this spreads the discussion out over time, and it gets students to come back again and again to the discussion. The way that they know that they need to come back is they'll have a notification bell up here, and they'll also receive emails if they select that in their profile. So you can see like, oh, wow, UN asked me a question about the graded assignments rubrics. So I can click on that and go directly to that assignment and be able to respond to him or her. I think it's her. The question about milestones and without grading. Yes, you can still use them without grading, but we have a new feature coming we want to make sure you're all aware of that will allow you to use the milestones with grading. Right now, they're giving you just a suggestion as to if the milestone was met. But what's coming, and this will be available for when you start your spring semester, is that you will be able to, oh, I don't have it there. You'll be able to see an auto grading suggestion. Like it'll give you a percentage. So like you met your milestone, and there will be a little tiny button when you create it that will allow you to say, this milestone is worth 10 points or 20 points or 30 points. And then those points will be populated in SpeedGrader where you can use them if you want them, okay? So you see all of this data that comes into SpeedGrader. I do want you to be aware that if you were to make an ungraded discussion, you can still get the same data because every discussion at the top will have a little button that says activity. And this will allow you to see every single student's activity in the course. And even if you click course topic activity, this is where you can see in the overall course across all of your discussions in here, who has or hasn't been active. Because it's really easy to see which students are engaged, but how do we know which ones aren't? Well, here, Laverne, Dan, Edith, George, even Darren hasn't commented in the last 7 days. So now I can reach out to them directly, maybe with a chat message. You do have Harmonize chat that will appear at the top, where you can send one-on-one instant messages to your students and also create conversations on their own. I think we pushed our time bubble here by a couple minutes. Let's see what kind of questions we have.
Well, and we want to make sure that we're not confusing anyone, because we don't normally necessarily run through everything in 20 minutes. So, but we wanted to make sure that we were providing the proper opportunity for bringing in your peers and in the discussion. But we can go anywhere from here, clarify anything additionally. I would point to Genevieve or Liz. Should we keep going with this, or is this a point where you want to kind of bring someone in? How would you like to proceed? This is kind of the first time we've gone through this process with Michigan, so we want to make sure we're giving everyone what their expectation is coming in.
Yeah, of course. So I would suggest our faculty present their instance of Harmonize, just so we can get an idea of what it looks like a little more deeply. And then after that, maybe just whatever direction we're taken in would be good.
That sounds perfect.
Okay, so I just brought this up real quick to answer Angela's question. In student view, the student only sees their own progress in the milestones. And then to answer Melanie, where does the chat go? It stays all in Harmonize unless the student has gone in and set a notification, and then they'll receive an email that just says you have activity in Harmonize. Okay, I'll stop acting as user and stop sharing my screen.
It does not currently, though, interface external from Harmonize. It stays within the tool, because again, our chat is intended to be an academic facilitation and connection tool, and so there's no external app or anything like that. It all lives within Harmonize or within your Canvas environment.
All right, so I'd like to introduce our faculty, our first faculty. Sabine Gaberan is a lecturer 4 teaching in the French department, and she has graciously agreed to join us and share her experience with Harmonize. Sabine?
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to show you what I've been doing in my 3 sections. I only did a certain type of activities, so I won't be showing you everything that you've seen today. Like you won't see an example of everything, but you'll get a sense of what I did. Okay, can you see my screen here? Yes?
Yes, we sure can.
All right. Okay, so I was teaching this fall and I used this in 3 different classes. I was teaching a 4th semester language requirement, and I think it's important to realize that it was a language requirement. So students were not necessarily happy to be in the class. So I was teaching one that was 2 different topics, the culture of sports, and then the other one was French and American politics. And then I was teaching another course, which is part of the major and minor in French, which is medical class. And so I did a little bit of the same in each of the courses, each of the classes. What I did is that, okay, so yeah, of course this is not going to work. So I didn't go through the Canvas assignments. I only did activities directly through Harmonize, and that was for several reasons. That I didn't want to use the grading portion of Canvas. I only wanted to try out one feature at a time. So this is what I concentrated on during the semester. So how did students know about their assignments? They had to go on the homework sheet that I usually post on Canvas, and that's where they saw what they were supposed to be doing in Harmonize. So they would look at the homework sheet, and then they would go onto Harmonize, the direct link through Canvas, and there they would see the assignment. I didn't want to choose the auto-graded feature, so I used the activity feature that was shown to you earlier. And I could see what students were doing, how much they were interacting with each other. And so that's how I started to grade. That was the first indication of what was happening. The second thing that I used to grade was that I was reading all the comments, of course, and I was going through their interactions, and I was taking notes. And then I manually added a grade into Canvas. And basically the grade was a combination of, did they follow the directions? Was it interesting and engaging? What they contributed, and how did they communicate with each other? And so that was clear in the grading rubric that I gave them. And then I would sometimes give feedback directly in Harmonize. I would participate in some of the discussions. I didn't want to do that too often because I really wanted to be sort of more of an observant and not be too intrusive, and really let them do what they wanted to do. But sometimes I felt that it was nice for me to add a couple of comments, or to show them that I was actually reading and that I was finding interesting what I was seeing. And so I didn't put any due dates on the assignments. They knew that they had to turn in, that they had to go to Harmonize, and they had to do the activity by a certain date, which was noted on the homework sheet, and it was usually by class time. But then I also wanted to be a little more flexible and give them more options, maybe to go back to something at a later point, to maybe look at a conversation, add something else throughout the semester. So I didn't want to fix the assignments within a certain date or a certain time frame. Some of them had technological issues, so I also wanted to make sure that they didn't feel that if they could not meet the deadline, they would still be able to participate in the discussion and get the points. And then also I wanted to be mindful of the time differences, and I had some students who were in California, so sometimes it was a little bit difficult for them. So in terms of giving the deadline and the day and the time by which they had to turn in the assignments, I wanted to be flexible. The way that I'm going to show you the way that I was also organizing those assignments is that I was asking students to react to some of the comments. And so in order for you to have a discussion and to organize a thread that makes sense, you need to give enough time to students to actually post something. And then everybody needs to post. And once everybody has posted, then students need to be able to have enough time to go back to look at the posts and to be able to write interesting comments. So as you can imagine, and this was very much the case in the 232 classes, they were doing the first post assignment right before class. And so sometimes I would go to class and not all the posts were there. Some were late. So it's really important, I think, in organizing these discussions, is to ask yourselves, what is it that I want to have achieved by class time, and what is reasonable for me to ask my students to be able to do in a certain amount of time. I think it's really important to have an idea of how you want to organize things throughout the week or throughout a couple of weeks. So what were the types of assignments that I gave? So there was an introduction in each of my classes. So these are the 3 examples that I gave. I asked, what was your favorite holiday for the first class? What was your favorite sport? And then what do you think of the American health system? So these were all for the 3 different sections. And I can show you here what it looked like. So I took some screenshots for identity issues, so that I wouldn't reveal names or content. So so these are screenshots of what it looks like, and I blurred out the names. So I don't know if you can see really well because it's probably a little tiny, but so this is me here. And then this is me. And this is me. So I gave an example and I gave a first post. So these are the instructions here of what I wanted students to do. And I just told them, I gave the directions in French. So what is your favorite sport? And explain to this in French. And I asked them to put in a picture. And then I gave them an example. So it was a way for me to show them a little, to share something a little bit about me, about myself, and then to sort of try to create this class community, classroom community, and make sure that they would start getting to know each other. And as you can see, the pictures make it very personal, and it's really great because they have a very first feel. So this was done the first day of class, second day of class. So students can right away get a feel of the students that are in the class, what are their interests, who they are, and get a little bit to get to know each other. So this was one thing that I did in all of the classes, just as an introduction. So then what else did I do here? So those were the introductions. Then I also, so for the first week of class, I asked them to post a video. Again, to get to know each other a little bit more. And what was nice, and I want to show you, so I'm going to do a new share. I can't put this here. Let's see. Just stop sharing and then do a new share.
Damn it.
So here. So this was the video. Can you see the screen? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
So this was the little video to introduce yourselves. And so I had some clear, well, I think there were clear directions here of what I was expecting. And I said their video needed to be interesting with visual details. And so what was nice about this is that automatically you can see the faces of the students. So you can connect the video with a face. And so that was a good way also to get to know the students and to get to interact with them. And so the first part of the activity was you have to post a video, 2 to 3 minutes to introduce yourselves. And then the second part of the activity was that they had to choose 5 of those posts, and they had to watch the video, and they had to write some comments and to interact with the student who was presenting, and maybe ask more questions or ask questions to know a little bit more about who they were and what they had presented in the video. So this is multiple layers. First, they have to create a video in the foreign language. They have to post it. Then they have to listen to videos. So then you have the listening component. And then they have to type and they have to ask questions. So there's the writing, the reading, the listening, the speaking, all of the skills in here for something that looks like a very small activity. It was actually very comprehensive. And just to show you an example of how they interacted, I'm going to use this one here. You can see that so they were making comments, and then they were answering each other, and they were tagging each other, like it was mentioned earlier, and they were answering and going back and forth. So here, this is really great because it was the first way for them to try to get to know each other, and they were actually talking to each other, and they were communicating, and all of this in the foreign language. So for those videos, so I did 3 of those videos throughout the semester. So I did one at the beginning of the semester, one mid-semester. It was a little check-in video, and I asked them, especially with this semester, how things were going and how they were dealing with everything that was going on. And then they listened to each other and they reacted to each other. And then an end of a semester one, where it was sort of a wrap-up of what did you find interesting this semester. So for that last video, at first I was thinking, well, maybe this is a little too personal. I need to ask them to post a video on Canvas maybe, or maybe on the Google Drive. I I was trying to figure out what would make sense. And then I thought I was just going to try, and it was really the first time that I was doing this. And I thought I'm just going to try and ask them to do it on Harmonize so that I have this space where I have all the videos. And something wonderful happened is that students, when they posted those videos, they were no longer talking to me. They were talking to the class, and they were talking to all of the students as well. And when they talked about their experience throughout the whole semester, they thanked each other on that last video. It was really great to see, because they had clearly created a community thanks to Harmonize, and they were feeling comfortable enough to share personal information and to share about what they had learned, what was difficult for them, what had been fun, what had been challenging. They were comfortable enough to share this to the whole class and to be visible and to be heard by everyone. And it was really, really nice to see that they were thanking each other and that they were addressing each other, although the video was just meant to be for me and I mean, that's how I had envisioned it, but it actually showed that they were really interacting with the platform. I also gave extra credits, optional posts, especially in my politics class, because of everything that was going on in the election. And some students commented that they appreciated that that extra credit option. And so although only a few students posted something, everybody could see their post. So maybe those who felt a little bit uncomfortable posting something or responding, they were able to read each other's comments, and they were able to interact with the content, although they weren't directly expressing their opinion. So I thought that was a nice way to give a voice to certain students. So the different types of activities that I did, there are 4 different big groups. So one post is made by each student. This is the example that I showed you here, where each student posts one thing. And so I had 18 students or 15 students, and so you have 15 of them. And so sometimes you don't, I mean, sometimes I didn't ask for any comments. I was just interested in making it visible. And it was just a place for everyone to express their opinion on a certain topic. Then I also had one post made by each student, and then comments from students. So that's the example of the beginning of the semester video that I showed, where each student creates their own post, and then other students comment on the posts that students created. One thing I would say about this is that I really didn't want to make this seem like busy work. So I never asked them to look at all the posts and to answer to everything. I think it's unreasonable to do that. I always gave them a choice, and I always said, answer to 3 to 4 students. And again, I was really surprised by the fact that some students were actually looking at every single post. And I could tell that because while looking at the activity, you can tell what students are actually looking at on the page. And even though I would say, answer 2 to 3 students or comment on 2 to 3 posts, I could see that they were seeing 100% of the posts before choosing who they were answering to. So this was really great because they were actually reading all the posts and then choosing the ones they preferred, or the ones they could relate to, the ones they wanted to answer to. So this is, what else did I also wanted to say that what I also tried to do is I tried to give options to students. I'm going to show you this in the last here, the one of the last one where I created the posts. Again, so that students did not feel that that they had to answer to everything, because I feel I didn't want to overwhelm them. So here, let me see. So what did I have here? So this I showed you. Okay, now, sorry, I'm going back and forth here. Let me go to this one here. So the groups, so what I did is that I also divided students into groups. And so group one, these are the students who are in group one. They had a certain topic. So this was in the medical class. And I asked them a question. Do you think that the medical system should be public, private, or semi-private, like in the US? These 4 students created an initial post. And the other students were supposed to reply to some of these posts. In group 2, they had another topic. And in group 3, they had another topic. So each student for a certain day was responsible for creating one initial post in one of these 3 groups. For the following class time, they had to look at the posts of the other students within these 3 groups and react and comment to a few of them. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So that way they were not all posting about the same things. It added some variety. And I think, I think that's the main thing, is that it added variety to the activities. It didn't seem so repetitive, and it wasn't always in the same format. So you could see here that there are 4 initial posts. And then if you look at the comments, there are 2 and 2, 3 and 3. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so 10 comments and 4 posts, so 14 students participated in this environment. And then it was the same thing in group 2 and same thing in group 3. So this is what I call here groups. And then, so the other thing that I did, so I created some posts, and then I asked students to comment on these posts. So I'm going to show you here. So I'm going to stop the sharing here, and I'm going to share again my okay. So this was in the medical class. So to give you a little bit of context, students did presentations in class. We did them in breakout rooms. And so every student heard the presentation. Each student had a knowledge of the presentations. And then what I did here, so these are my posts. You can see it's my name. What I did is that I took a screenshot of their presentations, of each of the presentations. So there are 15 posts, because I had 15 students. And what I did within each post is that I asked a question to make them think a little bit more beyond what had been said in the presentation. So the students had that information from the presentation. And then what I'm asking them here to do is to take that information from the presentation, and I'm asking a question that makes them think a little bit further, and how can this be related to what we're learning in class and other things like that. And then students were supposed to answer here. And then there was, again, some interaction with me or with other students. So this is what I call, when I say the teacher posts something, and you can see that they all had different topics. Those are the titles here with the different topics. And so again, I'm not asking students to answer to all of these. I'm telling them choose 5 presentations. So they choose 5 that they liked, and they choose to answer to 5 of them. Another thing I wanted to show you about this is that so I did this also, a little bit in a different way here. So this was about the elections. So I asked students to write a post, and they were supposed to either talk about an article they had read on the internet and they had to post the link, or a discussion on social media they had heard about, or a document on Canvas that they had read. This was linked to the elections and politics, or an event at the university. And so then they had to post something, and then they had to answer or to comment or to interact with 4 of the posts that were there. What was interesting is that since I always ask them to use an image and to post an image, then students get a sense of what they might read, or of what they might, of the content, by just looking at the images. So when I tell them choose, choose 5, then they can, just by the interface here, they don't necessarily need to go into all of them and read into all of them. They can make a first selection just by looking at the images that will help them decide on the content of what is in that discussion. And I thought that was an interesting way also to get them to feel that this was very much personalized, and it was not just everybody was doing exactly the same thing in the class. So these were the 4 different types of activities that I used. And so again, these were done through Harmonize. So I would create the posts directly into Harmonize. And then students would have to go to Harmonize to be able to see what activities were there. Just to quickly give you some feedback on, to show you the feedback that I got from them, I asked them to answer some questions at the end of the semester. What they did not like about the platform was the videos. So you've heard that you can, I would say that you can upload different types of videos directly from Harmonize or from your phone, but they were running into technological issues. So I'm not really quite sure why. I think it was due to the length of the videos maybe, or it came twice. That was the main thing in the sports class, and it was the main thing also in the politics class. Some said that it wasn't always easy to know when someone responded to a comment. So yes, you have the little bell, and then you have those little what's it called? Not annotations, but notifications. But some students felt it wasn't very easy to see when you had notifications or when students had answered. So that was one of their critique. Some of them said there were too many assignments. I would say that in the politics class there were 21 assignments, so maybe that was a little too much. I would bring it down. I think I would say maybe 15 over a semester was reasonable. The students from the 232 sports didn't complain about too much work. And then it was interesting here to see that some of them actually didn't really like to be so visible, because especially those who had poor language skills, they were very self-conscious of their abilities, and the fact that everybody was able to see this made them feel uncomfortable. That was just one student in the politics class, but I thought it was interesting to note it here. One more thing I want to share here. So did you enjoy using Harmonize? So the blue is yes, not sure is the orange here, and then no is the red. So you could see that, this one here, did you think Harmonize was an engaging platform? 100% said yes. So in the politics class, some of those numbers are lower, and I think it was because the topic was a little more complicated. And then because of the election and things like that. I think there are other factors that came into place here, but in a general sense, I think that they were very satisfied with the platform and with what they learned. If I can take one more minute to show you something else. So here, I wanted to show you the comments of what they said. So they liked the format. social media like, this idea of conversation. It enhanced my French, retaining and learning more content, engage in discussions, reflect. It helped them practice their writing, a lot of positive things, that they were able to learn more about other students than they would in a regular setting. That was really interesting. And that was the sports class. And then the politics class, they felt it was casual, but yet the topics were really important. So it gave them a platform where they felt that they could communicate easily without really thinking too much about the heaviness of the topics. And I felt that was interesting. Fun came a few times. They really liked the fact that they were able to see the thoughts of their peers. And that's also interesting here, that they had examples of writings also, because they could see all these posts. This is interesting. They genuinely looked forward to seeing the comments on my posts. More natural, applicable to the real world. So this is really interesting. And then some of them said it helped them improve their writing. So many different things here. I can share these comments with you if you're interested in reading in more detail what they had to say. But to conclude, I'm doing this again next semester. I'm teaching 3 other classes next semester, and I will definitely use these, and I will try to maybe implement other things that Harmonize is offering that I haven't tried this semester. Sorry for talking for so long.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you, Sabine. And thanks for putting together a presentation in your time. I'd say in the last 4 or 5 minutes or so, any questions that have come up? I know it was a whirlwind tour of the software and how it's used. Okay, bye, Barry. Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask for any of the people that spoke today.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Did I miss the difference between discussion and chat? And what makes those 2 different things?
Well, we can certainly address that if that's okay, Genevieve.
Sure.
So Michael will probably be sharing his screen, and while he does that, I'll go ahead and speak to it. So Harmonize is the platform that really provides more of a comprehensive social reflective experience in the online discussion, so that you have these various tools that you can bring in very quickly and easily allow students that interaction and that engagement. A component of that is available to you to be utilized is the integrated chat function. So as we open up, in this case, the Anatomy Lab 201, you'll notice the icon up at the top. And Michael, I'll let you talk through it so that I'm not directing you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I like it when you direct me, though. Okay, so when we have a discussion, this is where everybody's going to see any comments that are made by the instructor. So if you wanted to tell Alan, like, hey, I haven't seen you participating in the discussion enough, or checking to see if he's okay, you wouldn't want to put that in the post for everyone to see it. So built into Harmonize is this little chat icon up here. And if it's added to your course menu, you'll also see it on the left. And you can additionally click on a student's name whenever you're in the actual discussion, and that will allow you to start a chat with them as well. So there's multiple ways to get into it, but when you click chat, it will open up in a new tab. And something Darren said earlier is that the Harmonize discussions will work with inside of like any Canvas interface. So even if the student's on like a Canvas app on their phone or something, they can open the Harmonize discussion and then open the chat. So it is accessible in there. You can go directly to a chat with Alan. And I sent him a message. And I can also drag and drop files in here. So if I needed to send him like a rubric or an article or an image or anything like that, I can just drag it, drop it, it loads, and then I send it. So that's an example of starting a conversation from Alan's name. But when you're in chat, you also have the ability to start a new chat on the left. and see all the chats that have already been happening. So if I wanted to start a chat with a small group, like Sabine showed you that she had her students working in groups, and I'm thinking like, hey, Genevieve hasn't like come to any of our meetings. I can start a chat over here, and just starting to type a student's name will populate it automatically. Or I can go to any of the classes I'm in that are using Harmonize, click on that course, and then start selecting students whom I want to bring into this group chat. And then type my message and send it.
That's great. Quick follow-up. If
Mhm.
students are chatting each other, can I see the content of those chats? And then I'm curious if Sabine used the chat function as well.
I can answer that quickly. You can only see the chats that you are part of. But if you ever got like word that, oh, there's some students, they're chatting, they're plotting to, I don't know, kidnap the governor. Sorry, that's Michigan, that's you guys. But if something was happening and you were like, oh boy, you can always contact us and we can get the chat records for you. But you would not be able to see them unless you were added to the chat. Sabine?
Yeah, I answered in the chat. I I did not use the chat. I really wanted to only use a limited amount of things so that I could get a good sense of how these things were working. And I didn't want to overwhelm students either with too many things happening at once.
Okay, we're at time. I'm happy to stay on. I don't know if Michael and Darren, if you guys have any leeway in your schedules, but I understand if people need to hop off at this point, or certainly stay with any questions.
No, this was great. I mean, I really, it's an impressive tool for sure. I'm really looking forward to being able to use it. Is this something that updates a lot? I mean,
Well,
is that an issue?
So let me answer that two different ways for you, Angela. Yes, it updates a lot, but that will have zero impact on you. And when I say it updates a lot is that we are constantly working on enhancing and improving the solution specifically for the needs of our partners. But we do not have downtime that results. It's not like 2 a.m. on a Saturday night, we're going to take the system down for 2 hours sorts of things. It happens seamlessly and you never even know it. In fact, an example of this is I know I've had more than one occasion where I'll be going through and providing a demonstration for a prospective client, and someone will say, "What's that do?" And I'll say, "I don't know, because that wasn't there when I logged in the last time, because it's now part of the most recent release." Now that happens for me. It's not going to happen for you, because an example of that is what Michael was referring to earlier, where we have the auto grading feature. We are not going to be releasing that to the wild until we get past the end of the semester.
Right.
But you will always have release notes. There are always going to be communications that are sent out for features, and if it is most appropriate for that feature to be disabled upon release so that it doesn't create confusion, it will be. But something like chat, when that was, that's something that for any new partner moving forward we enable, but then and you have the access to it. The other thing that I just wanted to touch on real quick, Sabine, I would be very interested in maybe even talking to you a little further about the few video comments that you had, because I will tell you the experience that I've at least seen in my own household, and I'm speaking now as a parent, not someone who represents Harmonize, is my daughter has had similar video assignments to what you were talking about. That was a political assignment where she had to record a 5-minute video on as a political consultant, if you will, to a campaign in the 2020 campaign, congressional campaign. And for that 5-minute video, it took her over a half hour to record something, because she kept having to start and stop in Canvas with their native tools, versus kind of that one stop or that one button push, you record and it's confirmed and it's done. So I would be curious, and I'm asking this more out of curiosity than anything, if it was an upload situation or exactly where it is. And I will tell you also, if you see that sort of thing, or if you have a challenge like that coming into the spring, let us know. Let's talk about how we can help you to make sure that that isn't an issue, or we can identify maybe where those comments were coming from. Because I thought it was a great pedagogical approach that you were taking with that, and I loved seeing those interactions that you had. And we're here to support and help you with those kind of discussions and address even the minor annoyances that maybe you have and try to make things as efficient as possible.
What was interesting is that they only had 3 video assignments, and that was their complaint, is that
Yeah.
it was not easy. They didn't complain about anything else in the first class. And I think it was because maybe they were trying to upload from their phones. And so I ended up telling them that they had to, that it worked better if they were using, if they were recording within Harmonize.
Yes.
And so, but I think that the way that I sort of presented the tool at the beginning of the semester to tell them that it was versatile and they could do it in many different ways, that they could do it from their phones or from, I think there was maybe a misunderstanding that when I was telling them that they could upload from their phones, it was within Harmonize on their phones, but not create the video in a different app and then go to Harmonize, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And so what probably happened there, just for some comparison, is if they recorded a video, and let's say they even exceeded 5 minutes, or they recorded at a certain like full resolution, say like on an iPhone, they were probably bumping up against file size limits, because an iPhone video file is a large file, or it can be depending on how you use it. So that was probably where the challenge came in, versus like what you were saying, if they'd recorded directly within Harmonize, you wouldn't have had a single issue. Now, sometimes you want to create a video and bring it in, but again, we have the ability to create some flexibility around that if necessary. But yeah, I know we're running over our time, and I'm seeing some things come up in the chat. I mean, we'll keep talking, but that's probably where it came from then, is if students were recording, say like in their native iPhone app or Android app or whatever it was, and maybe they even went for an extended period of time and then tried to upload it, I could see where that may have been a challenge for them, versus if they'd recorded directly, it never would have been a challenge. And again, that's speculation, but that's part of why I brought up the fact that, you know, if you are seeing anything like that, let us know and we'll be more than happy to help you with it.
I would love to communicate with you and then maybe to tell you, because I've exchanged a few emails with certain students that I know have been having issues. So I would love to talk more about this. Yeah.
No, that would
Okay.
be great. Let's set something up. Michael, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to ask if Genevieve could like maybe put us in contact by email, Sabine. Like if you email both of us,
Okay.
then I'll get back in touch with you. And I want to just throw out this offer for anybody who's going to do anything in Harmonize that's kind of innovative. I've done this before with instructors at other universities. If you ever have a task you want students to complete and it needs some instructions, like here are the steps for recording your own video, I'm happy to make that video and put it into Vimeo. That sounds like a rhyme. And that way you can just drop it into your instructions and let students access it there. So it takes the load off of you with teaching. You don't want to teach them how to use a new piece of technology. And I want to commend you, Sabine, on what you did when you created that first introduce yourself discussion. What a great way to build community and introduce them to the technology in an ungraded, low stakes place with no stress. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you. They liked it. I think your idea of creating a video that we can give them with instructions. That
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Sabine, so much for your time. And that was a great presentation. I think it gave a really good overview. So thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was speaking too much and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to wrap up. I'm sorry. It was.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Well, I mean, from our perspective, you're fine.
Yeah,
I'm not
and
speaking for anybody else.
It worked
Yeah.
out perfectly today. So, you know, we do have 2 or 3 in the next faculty presenters in the next ones. So we may have to consolidate a little bit, but it was very good. Thank you so much.
We'll make sure to keep it short, or just be here for the questions that come up, Genevieve.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll do that.
Thank you
Well,
so
thanks a lot,
much.
everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everyone.
Yeah, you
Thank
too.
you so much.
All right.
Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays.
I
Bye.
love Harmonize. I really like it. It's awesome.
Thank you. We do
Thanks,
too.
Sabine.
Take care.